Okay, so this one's kind of interesting, man. Did you guys see this? There was a headline yesterday about how Kevin Feige told Hugh Jackman, don't come back for Deadpool 3. It's wild. Also, it made me realize something kind of crazy about Deadpool and Wolverine, but also just the multiverse saga in general. And so I want to kind of go over this with you guys and get your thoughts. Now, this is the thing about Feige. It's pretty interesting. Of anyone, it was Kevin Feige who was the most nervous about Jackman's return to the role, having previously warned the actor not to renege on the gut-wrenching finale of Logan. I said, let me give you a piece of advice, Hugh. Don't come back, Feige recalls. You had the greatest ending in history with Logan, and that's not something we should undo. But it seems this won't be the exact same Logan we've met in the previous X-Men movies. Correct, says Feige. And after a long drive, Jackman decided that another take on the character was exactly what he hankered for. I was about an hour into the drive, he remembers, and that question came into my head. What do I want to do? And as soon as I asked the question, I wanted to do Deadpool and Wolverine, I just knew it. I drove for another hour, couldn't stop thinking about it, and I got out of the car, called Ryan, and said, if you'll have me, I'm in. Get ready to go berserker. And there's even more to the article. There's some other stuff I want to talk about as well, but let's stop there for a second because that's pretty interesting. So this all has to do with the sort of state of mind that Hugh Jackman was in when asked to potentially come back to the role. And this was something that Ryan Reynolds wanted to do. It was one of the many ideas that he had for Deadpool. And I think he really just wanted the next Deadpool movie, the first one under Marvel Entertainment, MCU, to be absolutely incredible, right? So Jackman takes this long drive to just think about it, and he really just decides there's more to do. I do want this, and so he wants to do it. And the thing that this article and this little bit here about Feige made me realize is that Kevin is really set on the legacy of Logan and the ending of that portion of Jackman's career to remain intact, okay? So he's the one that said, don't come back. You have this fantastic ending in Logan. We don't want to undo that. And so they figured out a way to keep the ending intact and to bring him back. Now, this is a little bit of like slight spoilers here, but I think most of you guys already know about this, so I'm just going to go right into it, okay? This variant of Wolverine is like the worst Wolverine. He's really bad, and he's technically a version of Wolverine that's like an alcoholic that missed the opportunity to actually save the X-Men, like during the X2 movie where he's at the mansion and Stryker's people come in, right? So that's tied into his history. The point is, this is not the Wolverine from Logan. And in fact, another slight spoiler, apparently they're going to go to the Logan universe, or they're going to meet Daphne Keene's X-23 from the Logan universe on Battleworld, because the rumor is Logan, the one that died in the Logan movie, he was the anchor to that universe. So after he died, that universe falls apart. It ends up being destroyed, and X-23 ends up being there on Battleworld. Now, that's kind of interesting. Now, what that made me realize was, if that's the headspace that Kevin's in, if that's the place that he's at, which I think that it is, then he's not going to bring the same RDJ back, right? RDJ's ending, who, by the way, the Russo brothers didn't want to kill him off. By the way, Jon Favreau said don't kill him off, but Kevin was convinced it's the right thing to do. Even RDJ didn't want initially to be killed off, but then became comfortable with it. What it means is Kevin's likely gonna take a totally different variant of Tony and use him in Secret Wars. But that presents kind of a problem, because you want the nostalgia that is associated with these characters, and you want to bring in the backstory and the experiences that the fans have had with them. And yet you want to keep those moments in time secured. So the thing I keep thinking about is Tony Stark, the variant that will be in Secret Wars. How is that character going to relate to the other Avengers? How is that character going to relate to Tom Holland's Spider-Man? Because Tom Holland's Spider-Man is going to be very excited to see Tony Stark again. how are they going to make that work? And the big question I have is, will audiences accept this? This is actually a very nuanced thing for normies to accept. You have to simultaneously understand that the ending you saw before and the character you saw before is over. That ending happened. This is not the same character. And yet, part of the reason it even works at all is because it's kind of the same character. Like, even this variant of Hugh Jackman, you think about this Wolverine. It's still going to feel like Wolverine. You know what I mean? It's not like he's acting in a completely, totally different way. He still has a lot of the same experiences, memories, relationships. He still feels the same way about many other characters. So it's like this tough, nuanced line. It's really like he wants to have his cake and eat it too. If the variant's too different, you lose the association, the love, the nostalgia that you had for him originally or her, and you're like, okay, that doesn't work. But if it's too close, then it feels like you just brought the character back and it undoes the ending, okay? The other question I have from this is like, are we just going to get the shittiest versions of all the characters? Like, for Hugh Jackman, it works. You're taking a shitty version of Wolverine. I understand that. Very different than Logan, not super heroic. That's interesting. You can take him through an arc. But if you do that again, like, are we going to see the Tony? Like, think about this. Are we going to see the Tony that just bails when the nuke comes into the Battle of New York? And in his universe, New York just got nuked and Tony, like, bailed and all the Avengers are dead? Are they all going to be horrible? Because I don't know if I want that. You know what I mean? Like, that would be so weird. Like, oh, who's going to beat Kang? Oh, what about the Tony that let New York get nuked? What? No, he sucks. Well, he's the only one we got, you know? So it's like, oh, I don't know. That doesn't feel quite right. It puts into question some of the stuff with like Spider-Man and all that, right? And you think about it, the only one that had an ending that won't feel like you're taken away from is probably Cap, right? Because like Cap, we see him like with Peggy, but we don't really know the timetable on that. We don't really understand that. We see Cap leave with the stones in Mjolnir. I could see the exact same Steve Rogers. I could see him coming back because he didn't get an ending like Logan. He didn't get an ending like Iron Man did. So I could see that. Scarlett Johansson, I mean, you could maybe see her coming back, but are we going to get just like a bloodthirsty version of Natasha? Like a Natasha that's way more hardcore? When I read this article, and when I saw all the headlines and like Kevin thinks that's very, very important, it just sort of shows that that's probably the mentality that he's going to bring to all of these other characters coming back. And I just wonder, will audiences accept this? This is a very tricky thing to me. Like, I'm still excited. I'm going to go watch it. But even Deadpool and Wolverine, I'm a little bit confused. I want to see how that feels. Loki was a great example of that with variants. I think we've seen some of it in What If, and it works. Can you have your cake and eat it too? Will they be able to have their cake and eat it too? You get to bring them back, but you still get the ending and the thing that you had before? Is that going to even feel real? I'm super curious. What's the variant of Tony? From what universe are we getting another Tony? And how does he differ from the Tony that we had in the Infinity Saga? That's a big deal. It's tricky business.